Hey everyone. Tonight we're diving into a topic that affects us all, capitalism. Yeah, that big complicated system that determines how we make and spend money. For a while there, capitalism was like the cool kid in school, promising a brighter future for everyone. After World War II, capitalism really hit its stride. The United States, with its free markets and entrepreneurial spirit, became the envy of the world. Jobs were plentiful, wages were rising, and people were optimistic about the future. It felt like the good times would never end, but like any system, capitalism has its flaws. Over time, those flaws started to show, leading to some serious problems that we're still grappling with today. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to take a wild ride through the ups and downs of capitalism. Remember the good old days of the 2008 financial crisis? No? Well, it was a real hoot. Banks were handing out mortgages like candy on Halloween, even to people who couldn't afford them. This recklessness led to a massive housing bubble that eventually burst, sending shockwaves throughout the global economy. Millions lost their jobs, homes, and savings. It was like the entire world was playing a game of Jenga, and someone just pulled out the wrong block. The 2008 crisis wasn't the first time capitalism had stumbled. From the Great Depression to the dot-com bubble, history is littered with examples of capitalism going off the rails. These crises have shaken public faith in the system and raised serious questions about its long-term sustainability. At the heart of capitalism lies the profit motive, the relentless drive for companies to make as much money as possible. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with making a profit. After all, businesses need to make money to survive, but when the pursuit of profit becomes the only goal, things can get a little dicey. Companies might cut corners, exploit workers, or pollute the environment, all in the name of boosting their bottom line. It's like that old saying, money makes the world go round. But maybe, just maybe, we need to find a way to keep the world spinning without letting greed take the wheel. Now, some folks might say, hey, isn't the government supposed to keep things fair? Well, that's the idea anyway, but sometimes government policies can actually make things worse. Think about it, tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation of industries, and cuts to social safety nets. These policies often benefit the already privileged few while leaving everyone else scrambling for crumbs. It's like giving a life raft to the person who already owns a yacht. When the gap between the rich and poor widens, it creates a whole host of problems, from social unrest to political instability. It's like trying to build a stable house on a foundation of jelly. It's just not going to end well. Section 5, the price of greed, corporate malpractices and their victims. All right, let's talk about some real-world examples of capitalism gone wrong. Remember the opioid crisis? Pharmaceutical companies, driven by the almighty dollar, flooded communities with highly addictive painkillers, leading to widespread addiction and death. Or how about the climate crisis? Fossil fuel companies, knowing full well the dangers of burning coal and oil, have spent decades downplaying the science and lobbying against climate action. Their greed is literally costing us the planet. These are just a few examples of how corporate malpractices can have devastating consequences for people and the planet. It's a stark reminder that when profit trumps everything else, someone always ends up paying the price. Section 6, the 99% versus the 1% economic disparity in the modern world. Today we live in a world where a tiny fraction of the population controls a disproportionate share of the wealth. It's like the entire world is playing a game of Monopoly, and a few players have all the hotels on Boardwalk and Park Place. Meanwhile, millions are struggling to make ends meet, working multiple jobs just to put food on the table. This level of inequality is not only morally wrong, it's also economically unsustainable. When so much wealth is concentrated in so few hands, it creates an imbalance that can destabilize entire economies. It's like trying to balance a seesaw with an elephant on one side and a mouse on the other. It's just not going to work. Section 7. Reforming capitalism. Can the system be fixed? So, what can we do about all this? Well, some argue that capitalism just needs a little tweaking. They propose reforms like raising the minimum wage, strengthening social safety nets, and closing tax loopholes for the wealthy. The idea is to create a more equitable form of capitalism, one that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. It's like giving the monopoly board a good shake. Maybe everyone will have a fairer chance to win, but others argue that these reforms are just band-aids on a gaping wound. They believe that the fundamental flaws of capitalism are too deeply ingrained to be fixed with a few policy changes. Section 8, Beyond Capitalism, Exploring Alternative Economic Models. If capitalism is inherently flawed, then what are the alternatives? Well, some folks are looking to economic models like socialism or democratic socialism, which emphasize collective ownership and democratic control of resources. These models prioritize social welfare and economic equality over individual profit. It's like playing a cooperative board game instead of a competitive one. Everyone wins or loses together. Of course, these alternative models have their own set of challenges and complexities. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to the economic challenges we face. Section 9, Conclusion, The Future of Capitalism in a Changing World. The future of capitalism is uncertain as we grapple with issues like climate change, technological disruption, and growing inequality. The pressure to find more just and sustainable economic systems will only intensify. Whether capitalism can adapt to these challenges or whether we need to explore radically different approaches remains to be seen. One thing's for sure, though, the conversation about the future of our economy is far from over. That's our show for tonight, folks. Remember, the economy isn't some abstract concept, it affects all of us. So stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work together to create a more just and equitable world for everyone. Good night.